Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here with a severe weather outlook and discussion recorded on April 11th, 2023, around 2:50 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a lot to go over today, including new severe weather potential out across portions of the Central Plains and a Gulf cyclone that is forming. So let's go and jump straight into everything. Wide look over the United States at this point. We've got a ridge of high pressure forming over the central U.S. This is going to allow temperatures to rise well into the 80s and 90s. And then we have a Gulf of Mexico cyclone that is forming, not a tropical cyclone, just a non-tropical area of low pressure that is forming in the Gulf of Mexico. And that's going to be bringing a lot of heavy rainfall to portions of the U.S. over the next couple of days, especially over near the Gulf Coast. If you take a look here at the satellite imagery for this area of low pressure that is developing, we notice just a wide fetch of shower and thunderstorm activity. You can kind of see some of these towers up here indicating some convective activity here. These are thunderstorms, and some of them even could be producing some water spouts with some of that shear in the upper atmosphere and that low-level flow as well. But generally speaking, got an area of low pressure that is expected to consolidate somewhere in here and move off towards the north or northeast. If we look here at the graphic here, we notice that there's going to be a widespread heavy rainfall event stretching from near New Orleans to Montgomery, all the way down into portions of the Florida Peninsula as this area of low pressure moves slowly up towards the north and east here. And then we get this stationary front to act and basically turn into a warm front and also move off towards the north and east. And this is going to set the stage for a widespread heavy rain event. If we look at the overall forecast, again, we're starting to see numbers creep up to over 2 inches in spots, especially from New Orleans, near Thibodaux, places like that, through Mobile, Alabama, and Pensacola, and even into the Florida Peninsula as well. We could actually see some isolated totals get up there closer to 2.5 inches in spots. The 6E GFS was actually indicating a couple of 3 to 4 inch spots right over the Orlando metro, stretching back through I-95, Melbourne, Palm Bay, up towards Daytona Beach. Now, whether or not this actually happens, again, it kind of remains to be seen. There's conflicting, from the GFS and Euro. They are in disagreement in terms of how much rain is going to occur. And not everybody is going to see over an inch of rain here. This is kind of more of a just generalized graphic showing, again, the potential rainfall that you could be seeing over the next day or so from this event. But generally speaking, the heaviest rainfall amounts are expected to be from near New Orleans, Mobile, and Pensacola through about the Interstate 10 corridor. And really, some of these totals could get up there closer to 3 to 5 inches in isolated spots. It just kind of depends if you get under any of those heavier thunderstorms for a longer period of time. And even the potential for a few isolated severe storms, including the threat for a few isolated tornadoes, really stretching from about, again, that southern tip of the Louisiana area through Mobile and Pensacola and basically to near Tallahassee. We could see a few isolated severe storms in that vicinity through tomorrow and then ejecting towards the north and east on day 3, which would be Thursday. Now, turning our attention out towards the central United States, we have a severe weather threat that is going to be shaping up across portions of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas on Friday, day 4. There is a level 2 out of 5, which is a slight risk for severe storms across portions of Texas, including like Dallas, up towards Oklahoma, including Oklahoma City, Tulsa, El Reno, and then into portions of southern Kansas, including Wichita. So right now, this is a day 4 slight risk for all modes of severe weather. Synoptically speaking, we're going to have an area of low pressure that's going to eject from the Colorado Rockies. Lee cyclogenesis, that's the term for it. And this is going to head off towards the north and east pretty rapidly, but deepening. And as it does so, we're going to get this warm, moist air to flow from the Gulf of Mexico northward. And we're also going to have some dry desert air that is going to be behind this, setting up a dry line future where you probably will have dew points that are in the 30s and 20s near Amarillo, and dew points possibly in the 60s in Dallas and Oklahoma City. Now, there is a little bit of a moisture concern the further north you go, which is, again, why that slight risk does not extend further north at this time. There's going to be some moisture concerns, but generally speaking, this dry line is going to be the focus point for isolated thunderstorms to develop and move off towards the north and east on Friday, going into Friday evening, and potentially even later into the evening and early morning on Saturday, before this all kind of clears out here and turns dry and windy on the back side of this system. So severe weather threat is in place with all modes of severe weather possible. The latest GFS forecast is calling for some isolated storms to develop here by 0Z or 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time in this area around Dallas, and we can see some other isolated storms developing off towards the north. I don't think this is going to be a widespread event, but I do think any storms that can form could quickly go severe. If we actually take a look here at a forecast sounding off of the GFS for just north of the DFW area, we notice that there is going to be, again, some instability concerns. There's a little bit of a capping inversion here, but generally speaking, pretty curved hodograph in the lowest levels. Not a super decent, not a huge hodograph, but it is decent enough. And with any right moving supercells, you could end up allowing more storm relative helicity, meaning better potential for tornadoes. Definitely got streamwise vorticity. Basically what that means is that your vorticity vectors, shear vectors, a lot of math, a lot of complicated things, but generally speaking, you've got streamwise vorticity in the about 0.5 kilometer range, which means you are going to have that availability for thunderstorms to take on more relative, inflow, and also you're going to have access to more SRH, which does increase the tornado potential there. Again, capping could be a little bit of a concern, but generally speaking, you've got some pretty nice veering in the lowest levels of the atmosphere. A little bit of veer back here in the upper atmosphere, but pretty weak amounts of upper level flows. So severe weather potential, again, we'll see what happens, but it is going to be somewhat conditional. But generally speaking, with that trough of low pressure developing and just kind of sweeping across the area, we should get at least some thunderstorms to develop, and we could end up dealing with some pretty large hail as well. You can kind of see that in the upper levels especially, we've got a pretty steep lapse rate underneath some pretty significant cape here, about 1600. So pretty large amounts of cape there should lead to some hail potential as well. So again, all modes of severe weather possible with this setup as well as we head into Friday. So we're going to have to watch this, and maybe you might even be able to see us actually chase this event. We'll just have to wait and see how that all shapes up. All right. So that being said, I do hope you have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley, and I'll talk to you guys again some more over the next several days.